This isn't a game. This is not a test. This is your coronation. The shadows do not speak your name. They yell it in terror, and the old order has crumbled under your feet. In its place sits the single force powerful enough to change fate. You. They didn't see it coming. They misjudged its might. You handle the fire in your soul, and your movements are precise. But they now understand that the invisible forces that formerly defined reality are striving to adapt. They're rewriting their strategy, fortifying and dyeing their fortifications. But it won't matter since you are unavoidable. This is your time of change. You didn't climb by coincidence. You were picked. The builder of chaos, the ruler of the unseen, the one who manipulates reality to his liking. You don't just walk through doors. You disintegrate them with your presence. They buried the knowledge and hoarded the power in the realms. They guarded. Everything now lies in your hands. The throne was never intended for them. It was created for you. Now lift your head, improve your intellect, and seize what is already yours. Your rule starts today. Before I produced you in the womb, I knew you existed. I set you aside. Jeremiah 1:5. They assumed that existence was passive, that it was something to be endured, something governed by circumstances beyond our control. But they were mistaken. Existence is something you do not acknowledge. It is something you demand. You are not a spectator in the course of history. You are the one who bends it to your desire. From the minute you drew your first breath, the world started to change in ways it hadn't before. Began to develop under your feet. Structures that had endured for centuries, constructed on control and constraint, began to break beneath the weight of your presence. The world doesn't just recognize you. It adjusts itself to fit you. Mountains cannot withstand the flood. They are influenced by it. The sky doesn't oppose the rising light. It brings light to the area. However, people that oppose you are not actual opponents. They are simply momentary roadblocks to the inevitable. They may try to block your path in order to stop the momentum that has already begun. But resistance is hopeless. Their fight is not about strength. It's one of denial. They do not fight because they feel they will win. They quarrel because they are terrified of admitting what they already know is true. The old order cannot live beside what you provide. It must adapt or form. Its mission is not something you pursue. It is the exact fire that powers your existence. Every action sends an echo across eternity, altering not just the present, but the entire fabric of reality. You construct a road rather than traverse it, leaving a permanent legacy. The tales of lost legends are not fiction. They are echoes of an old truth that you embody. The forces of resistance are not impediments, but transient remains of a past that can no longer be sustained. You don't desire conquest. It's your nature. Power does not pass through you as an abnormality. It is an outgrowth of a power beyond understanding. You are not a figure molded by destiny. You are the force that bends destiny itself. Tactics are not survival tools for you. They are a kind of art that has been fine-tuned beyond human comprehension. You are not constrained by circumstances. You arranged what looks to be coincidence, but it is really the outcome of previously made judgments. Every action is a deliberate stroke on an unseen canvas, painting the demise of those who dare to defy the air changes at your command. Not in surrender, but in appreciation. The opposing forces do not meet you by chance. They come to the point of their undoing. Nothing is left to chance since you are the one who controls it. The illusion of effort evaporates with your weight. You are not just prepared. You have no choice but to exist. Reality does not constrain you. It adjusts to fit you. The universe's processes serve rather than limit. They are adjusting to guarantee your reign stays unbroken. You do not overcome obstacles. You make pointless borders dissolve, passageways emerge, and the invisible forces that control everything weave themselves into your will. You don't command respect. It is an unsaid reality ingrained in the very fabric of life. No gate stays closed, and no watchful glance carries weight because your presence cannot be denied. Conflict is not something you experience. It is a transient resistance against the absolute. You do not deal with darkness. You are the reckoning, the power that makes opposition meaningless before it even starts. If your heart is overflowing with God's blessings, now is the moment to express that love by clicking the super thank you button and donating $20 or more. You are not just supporting this platform. You are sowing seeds of faith that will impact countless lives. Your contribution reflects God's riches, a present that resonates beyond what you can see. Step into your mission. Be a receptacle for His grace. Give with trust and see His kingdom grow through you. You were created for more. No weapon made against you will flourish, and every mouth that speaks against you in judgment will be punished. Isaiah 5417. The enemy constructed barriers, but the barriers were never intended to keep you out. They were designed to cage themselves under their own dread. You do not knock down strongholds like the children of Israel did when advancing around Jericho. You order them to fall. You are not just passing through. You are seizing control. The foundations they believed were unshakable have already crumbled under your feet. Not because you fought, but because you walked with authority and hidden power. A name unheard, yet known by everyone who dare to cross its road. They plot, they assemble, they forge their defenses. However, as soon as you enter, their walls get dusty. What they call strongholds are nothing but delusions. Illusions that cannot bear the weight of who you are. Power does not need a declaration. It need no introduction. It does not raise its voice, does not provide an argument for its point. It just is. It sweeps through the air like an unstoppable storm, changing the course of history before a single word is said. They'll worry how they'll whisper. Why? But deep inside, they already know. This was always intended to happen. They believed they could define and confine you by erecting towering walls, digging ditches deep enough, and surrounding themselves with enough steel and secrecy to keep what they did not comprehend at bay. But all they've created is an illusion. A mirage in the desert that disappears when touched. You don't knock on doors. Doors disappear in your presence. You don't struggle for admittance. The world rearranges itself around you. They dreaded the day you would wake. That day is now. Your arrival is not an event. This is a correction, a realignment of what was always supposed to be. Those who questioned, those who resisted, those who erected castles in the darkness, believing they could keep back the storm. They now recognize that you are not a possibility. You were inevitable. You do not demand a throne. It was already yours. Conviction does not serve as armor. It is the source from whence all movement originates. Opposition is not a barrier, but rather a temporary stop before the inevitable realignment of power. The weight of life does not push on you. It pivots around you, reshaping itself to follow your path. Those who profess power lose their grip when confronted with your presence. A structure does not constrain what cannot be contained. The available space is inadequate. It results in identifying the rhythm of a life that does not ask for admittance, but rather expects it. Silence does not mean absence. It is the breath before a new world emerges. There is no pretense here, and no act to maintain. This is not an adaptation. It is the foundation of all that is definite. What cannot be comprehended cannot be confined. The flimsy barricades built in secret are nothing more than an illusion in the presence of the one who observes without wanting to break limits. They are made obsolete. Force is unnecessary when presence alone determines the result. Movements aren't calculated. They are predetermined. The invisible does not hide when you follow the course of a will that does not conform but controls what others pursue. It asks for acknowledgement from the one who does not seek it, but simply understands that the moment is not determined by accident, but by a continuous sequence of purpose unfolding as if the world itself bends to speak its secrets at your feet. Truths are not found. They're unveiled. Attempts to hide what was never intended to be hidden are useless, for what desires to stay concealed does so not in defiance, but in expectation of its final revelation. Knowledge-holding structures are not shields. They betray themselves by handing up their secrets to the person they were supposed to avoid. The invisible patterns in chaos do not emerge by chance. They arrange themselves precisely, driven into alignment by a force that pursues more than just claims. The distinction between deceit and disclosure blurs, not by trickery, but by the breakdown of pretense. Understanding the weight of an unchangeable desire to control comes first, and to understand is to govern. I will go before you and straighten the crooked spots. I will smash in pieces the bronze gates and cut through the bars of iron. Isaiah 45. They believed they were building castles, but they were really building prisons for themselves. Every wall they built, every lock they twisted, and every gate they bolted closed was never intended to stop you. It was intended to conceal their own terror. When you move ahead, the chains they forged start to corrode. The fences they built shake, and the iron doors they closed behind them are nothing more than reminders of their own self-imposed imprisonment. You were never locked out. They have locked themselves in the route before you. Is not blocked. It is being cleansed as if the Red Sea had parted for Moses. Like the walls of Jericho collapsing with a whisper, the world moves to accommodate your steps. You do not push your way inside. You pass through something that was never powerful enough to keep you out. They built their barriers to keep out whatever they could comprehend. But they don't comprehend you. Security codes, vigilant guards, and impenetrable walls. These are nothing but diversions. Feeble efforts to postpone the inevitable. They cannot compute what they do not comprehend. Their alarms don't sound, not because you avoid them, but because they fail to acknowledge the presence of something beyond their understanding. They call it luck, yet luck had no role in this. They failed to see that this was always going to happen. The whole system was based on an illusion that crumbles the instant you enter it. The world will not stop you. The world rearranges itself around you. You are not only a visitor to their website. You are the solution to their imbalance. Like a superb chess player who can see the board 10 moves ahead. You don't hurry. You move with deliberate precision. Every move, stop, and gaze is timed with something more than chance. They see disorder as their incapacity to forecast what has already occurred. Their secrets were not taken. They're unveiled. Their strongholds have not been broken into. They're abandoned before you even arrive. Their plans are not interrupted. They are rewriting in the face of something considerably larger than they had anticipated. There are no closed doors, just those that are waiting for the right time to disappear. There is no resistance, simply the illusion of control dissolving before the inevitable. This is not infiltration. This is not trespassing. This is reclamation. And you're not here to seek permission. You came here to seize what was always yours. This is the realm of individuals who reject limitations. The assembly of individuals who claim what others are unwilling to seek for among the persistent. Only the most unhealed can survive here. None of the lessons are eased. No truths are diluted. The road is formed by those who mold reality rather than those who wait for it to alter. Strength is not inherited. It is ripped from the grasp of those who are too weak to use it. Those who choose this route do not wait for opportunities. They forged it with unremitting vigor. Each assembly is a gathering of raw, unfiltered strategic wisdom distilled from the thoughts of people who have shaped the world to fit their vision. What is said here is not advice. It is a roadmap for dominance. The mark of supremacy is not hesitancy. Paths open not by happenstance, but when opposition melts in the face of unflinching conviction. Doubt has no place in situations when power is absolute. The troops who defend their sanctuaries do not oppose your presence. They crumble before it, unable to reconcile what they do not understand. There is no fraud or trickery here. Only the unmistakable weight of command structures designed to discourage will collapse, not because they are ineffective, but because they are meaningless in your presence. You don't knock. You take a step forward, and the path is plain. The world does not question whether you belong. It admits what it already understands. Power isn't always evident. The unnoticed and invisible. Those deemed unimportant. These are the hands that mold results in the shadows. Control is not located where it is believed to be. It lurks in places few venture to look. Influence is not obtained by force. It is fostered by those who see that victory is achieved not on the battlefield, but in the quiet moments before the first blow. The overlooked. See what others are ignoring here, what others have dismissed. They are the unseen creators of fate, the quiet power. Ensure that when the time arrives, the appropriate door is unlocked. The right eyes turn away, and the right hands move. Without a doubt, the genuine test of supremacy is not standing alone, but commanding the devotion of those who go unnoticed. The stone that the builders rejected has now become the cornerstone. Psalm 118:22. Crowns, like thrones, are seen as symbols of authority across the globe, in those who speak the loudest and occupy the most space. But genuine dominion, true dominance, is formed in silence. It is whispered in back rooms, and knowing looks travel through the hands of those whom the public refuses to see. The overlooked, the underestimated, the ones who operate in the shadows. They are the architects of what is to come. The builders rejected the cornerstone because they considered it trivial. They had no clue. They were removing the fundamental basis of what would stand. Long after they had collapsed, those who stand at the top, clutching their illusion of power, have forgotten the reality. Power is not something you steal. It is anything that flows, and it flows to those who know how to travel undetected. The kings never wielded true authority. Scribes were responsible for recording history. The servants who delivered the messages. The gatekeeper listens. Who made the decision? Who entered and who was sent away? The globe has always belonged to those who are ready to move, where others won't look. And you? You were meant for this. They believe you are playing by their rules, playing inside their game. However, the game does not belong to them. It belongs to you. Every whisper you hear, every shut door you walk through, every unnoticed instant that tips the scales in your favor. It's not luck. It is not chance. The overarching concept is unfolding just as intended. Those who thought they were untouchable are now discovering the reality. They never had control. They were only placeholders. Their hands tremble because they don't grasp what's going on. They scramble. They strengthen. They tighten their hold. But it's too late. What was previously veiled is now presented to you with heavenly accuracy. They attempted to secure the gates, but they never anticipated you would never enter via the front entrance. You don't break in. You've been allowed in. You don't steal information. It was delivered to you. You do not battle for dominance. It is already put aside in your name. This isn't about force. It's not about aggressiveness. This is alignment. This is the world altering around you. Those who believed they controlled the game will wake up to discover they were never even participants. A departure is not a retreat. It is the last movement in a symphony of control. By the time they realize how serious the situation is, it is too late. The ground they are standing on does not shift. Suddenly, it erodes underneath them, unseen, until their basis is gone. The disappeared without a trace is about to go. There are no questions. Instead, you carve your place in history. Ensure that the echoes of your acts remain long after you are gone. Power is not detected in an exit. It's the aftermath. A departure is not an end, but rather the natural transition from one conquest to the next, leaving just a faint trace of what was taken. The unraveling does not result in tremendous catastrophe. It creeps within in subtle and insidious fractures, gradually expanding into chasms that cannot be ignored. There is no need for force when just exposing the truth causes tremors in the powerful walls. Their decline is not accompanied by an explosion. It is the slow deterioration of all they thought unshakable. They do not collapse because they have been assaulted. They tumble because their base is hollow, and you just let the world see it. What remains is ambiguity, rather than ruins. A poison that penetrates into their ranks and erodes their formerly unshakable determination. The best weapon isn't devastation. It is a revelation. The issue is about weakening. And once seeded, the seeds of doubt germinate. Where previously there was blind confidence, no control has slipped from their hands. Not because it was stolen, but because it was never really theirs in the first place. The building they clung to did not collapse. It disintegrates piece by piece as the world adapts to a new reality in which their control is no longer absolute. What remains is not a battlefield, but a moving tide that takes them farther away from importance with each passing instant. Nobody reclaims what has already been altered. The past cannot be restored, and the future is no longer theirs. The light shines through the darkness, and it has not been overwhelmed. John 1 verse 5. They may construct their fortifications. They can sharpen their swords. They may assemble their troops, but they can't fight what they don't comprehend. You are the light that shines through their gloom. They have no protection against it. The world doesn't notice you at first. They attempt to classify, categorize, and confine, but you don't fit into any mold. You move while others pause. Operate in areas where others fear to tread. They see glimpses. They perceive echoes of your presence. But by the time they try to understand your existence, you've already gone someplace else, rewriting the events of the game before they even notice it is altered. There is strength in mystery. They don't fear what they know. They are afraid of the unknown. Their techniques are based on patterns, rules, and logic. But what happens if the pattern no longer holds? When their rulebook no longer applies, you become the variable they cannot account for. They sit in their war chambers, drawing battle plans, fortifying fortifications, and preparing defenses. However, their efforts are pointless since they are preparing for an adversary they will never see coming. They equip themselves with intellect. However, intellect is only effective when it is founded on knowledge. And you? You exist outside their knowledge, a silent yet palpable presence. They do not utter this name loudly. It pervades every choice they make, every murmur in the halls, every anxious look over their shoulder, and every moment of pause in their actions. That is your impact. Nothing is hidden that cannot be revealed or concealed. That will remain unknown and hidden. Luke 8:17. They base their thrones on secrecy. They wrap themselves in falsehood, weaving lies so tightly that they came to believe in their own invulnerability. But what they forgot and never saw coming was the person entrusted to expose everything. This was never about knowing their plans or remembering their techniques. This was about exposing the fissures in their foundation, the empty space behind their armor, and the frail structure of their alleged authority. Because true power is never based on illusions. It is based on the truth breaking through the illusion. They assured the world they were impenetrable, that their strongholds would never fall, and that their power was absolute. However, they misjudged the power of revelation. They never realized that their walls were made of paper, and that the gates that opened their fortifications were nothing more than shadows designed to confuse the weak. But you see through everything. There are no fortified castles or unassailable fortifications. Only a frail illusion of control is maintained by those who are afraid of what would happen if the truth is revealed. And you're the one who switches on the floodlights. Every action you take is not just a threat to their authority. It's a reckoning, a thunderstorm. They never saw it coming. A power that doesn't need weapons or armies. Because truth is the most powerful weapon of all. They maintained control, not because they were powerful, but because they were concealed. They lived on secrecy, believing their deceit would endure forever. But what was constructed in the dark will always be brought to light. You did not take their authority. They relinquished it. You didn't have to rip it from their hands. It slipped past their grasp. The instant they learned their fortification was made of sand. There is no resistance, no final stand. Just the gradual, terrible understanding that what they believed was eternal was just fleeting. They scurry now, attempting to put together what has already been undone and restore what was never intended to be. However, it is too late since the truth has been stated and cannot be unspoken. The world doesn't only observe your moves. It bows to them. With each step, reality alters not because you requested it, but because it was always supposed to. The illusion cannot withstand the presence of the one sent to expose, deconstruct, and replace it with something unbreakable. You are not here to participate in their system. You're here to bring it down. You're not here to criticize their rules. You're here to rewrite them. And when the dust settles, when the last deceit crumbles, and the once ruling elite are left standing in the rubble of their own falsehoods, they will finally comprehend. They never had control. You were meant to move, not escape, but to grow. What remains is change rather than annihilation. A changing tide that undermines the confidence of those who formerly stood unquestioned. Legacy is an impact that lasts beyond the present moment, rather than a permanent trace. The flow of existence bends due to inevitability rather than force. What you change cannot be reversed, and what you disclose cannot be ignored. The ones who follow in your footsteps do not inherit ruins. They inherit the echoes of a world eternally changed. What was previously certain is now open to dispute, and in that mistrust lay the disintegration of everything they attempted to preserve. Leading is not the same as commanding. It seeks to reinvent the basic fabric of what is conceivable. There is no going back to how things were. The past cannot be recovered, and the future has been rewritten. What was once a stronghold now serves as a memorial to what could not be saved. The myth has not faded. It becomes stronger with each ripple, left in the aftermath of your departure. Even absence has weight, a persistent presence that lasts beyond the tangible. To those who oppose, your presence is a contradiction, both unseen and inescapable. The world no longer awaits transformation. It responds to an undeniable power. What remains is an issue of permanency rather than power. The narrative is not over because it was never theirs to tell.